The AI focus at Computex is kind of crazy. A lot of it's going overboard. We have monitors that use AI to help you cheat in video games, but possibly even more concerning, I do want to get this out here. So we've had Microsoft talking so much about the new AI features in Windows, and one of the big ones being Recall AI. Now, Recall does sound like it could potentially be useful, but it's also really scary in how it operates because it basically takes a snapshot of whatever you're doing on your PC every 5 seconds and saves that over a long period of time. But cybersecurity researchers are pointing out that this is dangerous beyond just some of the obvious dangers because apparently it stores the information in plain text. So a ethical hacker has developed a tool that easily extracts all the data collected by Windows' new Recall AI and is uploading this to GitHub to basically try to pressure Microsoft into changing how they do this before Recall is fully available out in the wild. Now, apparently I just completely resized myself. We can deal with that. Anyway. But yeah, it really shows that it's all plain text. The database is unencrypted. Now, it is stored locally on your device, but again, that means that if somebody is running some code, on your device, they can take basically all the information that's been on your PC, just screenshot every 5 seconds. That sounds absolutely terrible and dangerous. So just letting you guys know that that's an issue. Again, I think in a possibly less less important issue, but again, we do have the monitors cheating with AI. So this is MSI demoing their new flagship MEG 321 URX 4K 240 Hz OLED gaming monitor. Model numbers on monitors are a little hard to parse here. But basically, if you're like, wait, MSI, didn't they already have a 32-inch 4K 240 Hz OLED? Yes, and they have some of the better priced ones. They're still around $1,000, but they have a different prefix here with the MEG, as opposed to the MAG and MPG. The MAG is a 4K 240 Hz OLED with the same panel, but doesn't have the ability for like software updates. The MPG has the ability for software updates. And now the MEG, which has a rumored price of around $1,700, as opposed to like I think it's like $900 and $950 on the other two. So huge price increase. What are you paying for with that price increase? Well, apparently the ability to have the monitor use an AI called SkySight to help you cheat in certain video games. Or I mean, I guess our definition of cheating here could be debatable. Is it playing the game for you? No. Is it aiming for you? No. But does it highlight enemies, keep track of health indicators, ammo indicators, and things like that on screen for you by reading what's happening on your display? Yes. Now, this is only supported in certain games for now, but they're claiming that it could be updated over time through software updates to support further games. But yeah, I think we're getting to the point where your monitor can see your game and then use AI to assist you in the game. At what point is it just playing the game for you? If your peripherals, because if your mouse and keyboard were plugged into your monitor, do you see what I'm saying here? I think we're reaching a dangerous point when it comes to all of this. Anyway, not that people weren't cheating in video games anyway. Now, in another use of AI in a monitor, this one a bit less extreme, we have Samsung showing off their new Odyssey G8 4K 240 Hz OLED monitor. So more 4K 240 Hz OLEDs here. This one at $1,300. So pretty expensive, but looks like it'll be a bit less than the rumored price on the AI cheats version from MSI. But this one apparently has built-in AI upscaling. Now, when I saw this headline, I was interested. Oh, so can you plug in your PC, maybe render the game at 1440p, and then it AI upscales it to 4K. It wouldn't have access to motion vectors or anything like that, so it wouldn't be as good as DLSS. But I was just interested in what it would be. However, it looks like this is only available It says this feature only works for content that is shown on the monitor's built-in software, like Xbox Game Pass streaming or Netflix. So really, this is a smart monitor, so it has smart apps and things like that. So if it can stream Game Pass natively through the monitor itself or Netflix, things like that, and I guess it can AI upscale that video, which might actually be more interesting because, to be honest, I guess if you're buying a $1,300 monitor, odds are you have a graphics card that can do better upscaling, through the game than a spatial upscaler, even if it's AI based, that the monitor would run, right? So anyway, but these new Samsung monitors are out there with their new line of OLEDs, and again have some smart features and AI features in there. Now, one of the biggest things at Computex that I haven't addressed yet is Intel finally had their major presentations. And what I'm most interested in is their next graphics cards. Now, we don't have any Battlemage discrete GPUs out there, but we do have news about the Xe2 GPU architecture that will be used in the Battlemage discrete GPUs. And apparently they're offering a 50% performance uplift, but again, that's not talking about, the Intel Arc A770 against the B770 from Battlemage. We're talking about integrated graphics for Lunar Lake versus the previous generation. What was that? Meteor Lake? I can't keep track of all of the Intel code names on their cores and everything. But in addition to the big performance uplift, there's new ray tracing cores. And in general, if you look through this, there's a ton of information. I'm not going to read through all of this. All of my sources will be linked in the video description. So if you want to look at any of this more closely, you can. This is the most interesting slide in regards to the Xe2 graphics updates. And you can see in a lot of different areas, there are some very large performance uplifts compared to the previous architecture, including some up at like 7 times, 12.5 times, 2.1 times, 4.1 times. Now, not everything is quite that much of an update, but a lot of things are. And so here's the thing. One of the big, I guess we could call it an advantage that Intel has going into their next generation of graphics cards is that because Arc had, it was their first generation of them, there's going to be easier to identify problems, which then means it's easier to get a large generational uplift, right? For AMD and NVIDIA to get huge generational uplifts on the same, die area, it's going to be more difficult because they have a more mature architecture with less obvious flaws. So having more obvious flaws means it's actually easier to get a large generational uplift. So that's kind of the silver lining of the issues that happened with the first generation of Arc GPUs, and that's what they're kind of showing off here, is the variety of places where they were able to make some massive improvements. There's a whole bunch of talk about the render slices and scalability and all sorts of the hardware revisions they did to do this, but I think for most of my audience, knowing the details of the actual hardware changes is a little beyond what we need to know. It's more about, hey, does performance go up, right, in games? And it looks like all signs point to yes, performance will go up in games. And like I said, for those of you wanting a deeper dive, feel free to follow the link in the video description and take a closer look. Now, like I said, those new Xe2 GPU cores will first be featured as integrated graphics on Intel's Lunar Lake CPUs, which will be mobile efficient CPUs. That's kind of the goal with them. Now, Intel did release a lot of information on these, including talking about Lion Cove being a 14% IPC uplift and Skymont IPC more than Raptor Cove, next-gen power management and scheduling. The point is there's a bunch of stuff here. But like I said, while some of you might find it interesting to follow up on this and read all the details yourself, I think a lot of this is just kind of like, hey, next architecture should have improvements over previous. Let's wait till we get some benchmarks and see how it goes. One of the big things they're talking about is shifting on their hyper-threading strategy, which is interesting because they're talking about by ditching hyper-threading, they could actually better maximize the use of die space for I think, single-thread performance, which is useful in a lot of situations. And anyway, so the point is they could actually get a better benefit to IPC by ditching hyper-threading on some of their stuff. Anyway, there's interesting stuff here, but I'm not going to go into every detail of the full breakdown. You can dive into that. Now, one thing Intel seems to be hesitant to do is actually tell us what the product names will be rather than the code names like, Lunar Lake. Like that, you're not going to go out and buy Lunar Lake at the store, right? It's going to have a name. Now, Intel was trying not to name them, but it's looking like if you pull up a task manager screenshot of one of their demos, it kind of outed the name unintentionally, but nobody's really surprised by it. We kind of already knew what was happening, but we do see Intel Core Ultra 7 268V in the task manager screenshot when they were demoing Lunar Lake. So in other words, the high-end Lunar Lake chip, because this does by the specs, the amount of cores and memory and things like that attached to this seems to be the highest end chip that we would be expecting. So it's looking like the highest end Lunar Lake mobile chip will be Intel Core Ultra 7 268V. So we at least have that naming available, because again, it's very visible in the task manager screenshot, despite for some reason Intel not wanting to talk about the names. I don't know why they're not wanting to talk about the names. Maybe they're wanting to hold that off for a future announcement, something like that. Now, speaking of future announcements, one of the advantages of Computex, while I'm not there, a lot of tech media is, and they're able to have, off-the-record conversations. So there's, like motherboard manufacturers and things like that will know things that Intel doesn't want released publicly yet, right? So in off-the-record conversations, sometimes information can be spread that is not allowed to be officially spread. So in other words, a lot of times you get rumors coming out and things like that that aren't official but are probably pretty good information. And it's looking like WCCF Tech has whispers from motherboard manufacturers that Intel's next desktop CPU architecture, which will be Arrow Lake, remember the Lunar Lake I was talking about before, is a mobile chip. So the next desktop CPU is apparently launching in October and will be called the Core Ultra 200 series. Now, note that when we were talking about the Core Ultra, Core Ultra 7 268V, notice the V at the end. So it's looking like Lunar Lake will have the V at the end. Those are some of the mobile chips, and the Arrow Lake desktop chips I don't think have the V at the end, but they're still Core Ultra 200 series. And then I think there's Arrow Lake versions for mobile that are, I think, less power efficient than Lunar Lake that I think get an H at the end. If I'm understanding all of that correctly, guys, there's a lot of names going on here. Because there's the code names followed by the actual product names. Anyway, a lot going on here, but that's kind of what we're seeing here, and it should be lower power than Raptor Lake. We have Intel's Pat Gelsinger talking a lot about they're really wanting to push architectural changes for IPC improvements generation on generation on generation, really focusing on those IPC improvements to not have to push the core clocks so far, which is, I think, a lot of what got them in trouble with their recent stability issues on desktops. I think they just pushed things too far to try to chase those last bits of performance. In other news for Intel, we're seeing that apparently Intel has achieved a Panther Lake power-on their 18A node, which is pretty interesting. Again, they're also talking about that chasing the IPC improvements. And anyway, but so Panther Lake, again, if we look at this, would be what's coming after Arrow Lake. So we've got Lunar Lake, Arrow Lake, Panther Lake, and then future products. So Panther Lake has apparently achieved a power-on status, and then again, that's using Intel's 18A node, which is a big deal for Intel to get that out there on time. with their Foundry stuff. So there it is. There's some 18A node, and they have powered on. So cool. Now, in other news at Computex, related to that, the first Lunar Lake product that I can find confirming it has Lunar Lake, because if you look at the thing, it says codename Lunar Lake on the display, is actually MSI's updated Claw. So the update to MSI's Claw will be Claw 8 AI Plus A2VM. Is apparently confirmed to be Lunar Lake. I've mentioned this before, but this handheld device is confirmed to have a variable refresh rate 1080p touchscreen. I think the 8 in the name is because it's an 8-inch display. But again, the most interesting thing about it is it will be Lunar Lake. So if it does get a big graphics performance improvement from those Battle Mage improvements that we've talked about, this could be a more interesting product than the initial MSI Claw. I hope they get the price kind of lower to make it attractive as well. There's been a lot of the PC handheld stuff at Computex. Remember, Zotac's Zone has been being shown off, and it's now confirmed to be having a Ryzen 7 8840U processor, so basically the same as a lot of these other AMD-based handhelds. And apparently it will have an AMOLED screen, but the screen is native portrait mode. Now, of course, you can run things in landscape mode, but the fact that it's native portrait mode can occasionally cause headaches with games wanting to render the wrong direction. So that could potentially cause some small compatibility issues. So while I like the AMOLED screen, I don't like that it's native portrait. It's also coming in at, looks like, an 800 euro/US dollar price point in September. And that price point does seem pretty high. So while it does seem to have some pretty good specs, including the OLED display, they are asking quite a bit for that. Another big handheld that we're seeing here is XPG's, ADATA's XPG NIA, which is apparently to feature upgradable LP Cam 2 memory and an AMD Phoenix APU, so that would be like the 8840U type stuff that we're seeing here. And this one, I don't think is an OLED display as far as I can tell, but does look like it has a screen that can kind of pop up, which I guess could be interesting depending on how you like to hold your device from like a comfort perspective. And the memory will be upgradable because LPCAM is upgradable, and you wouldn't be stuck to ADATA memory either because that is a standard. The LPCAM is a standard. Now, speaking of CAM memory, so this seems to be a big thing at Computex. If you look at all of the motherboard manufacturer booths, a ton of them are showing off motherboards with CAM2 DDR5 memory. And we have G.Skill here showing off some CAM2 memory, DDR5 7800, with 48 gigabyte capacity running at CL36 timings. And what's cool about these is, again, when I initially saw these and didn't know anything about it, I was like, oh no, I don't want motherboards with like soldered on memory. But the whole point of these is they're not soldered on, they're removable. You can see the screws. But the fact that they are lower profile could help with like CPU cooler compatibility, which is nice. But then also they are still replaceable. And I think also the fact that they're lower down and flat can help out with making tighter timings easier. So in other words, running higher speeds and timings in this form factor could be better than what we're seeing currently with the DIMMs. So cool. I have a feeling that we're going to see more and more of this on the desktop space. Now, in other kind of memory-related news, Micron has announced their 32 gigabit per second GDR7 memory for next-generation graphics cards is now sampling. So that does make sense if we're going to be getting new graphics cards probably from NVIDIA with GDR7 memory on it. So those are out and sampling. And I meant to throw this in with the handheld PC space, but I'll throw it in here now. There's also, this one's a rumor, but there is a rumor that Microsoft could be announcing an Xbox Portable at this week's showcase. Now, again, just a rumor, so take it for what it is, but I'm very interested in what the Xbox handheld could be if it does end up being a real thing. And is it more of a PC or is it more of a console? Meaning, is it going to be more of, one of these Windows type devices, or is it more of an actual console? Very interested in that. We'll have to see what we get. Now, in other kind of Computex / AI related news, so at MSI's booth, not only are they showing off some, Supreme coolers and Expert Fusion coolers, but they're also showing off AI generated art on their on their GPUs. Now, so the 4090 Supreme AI generated edition. Now, it's unclear if these will actually ever hit the consumer market. Could you actually purchase these? And my guess would be probably not. But there are a few designs being pictured with, AI-generated GPU coolers. So I think this is going too far. It's just too much. Anyway, it is what it is. AI is the big buzz at Computex, and it's making its way basically everywhere. Now, in other news, I do want to throw out that we're getting rumors that The Last of Us Part 2 PC development has actually already been done for months, but that we won't see it until Season 2 of The Last of Us show comes out, probably to kind of double down on that hype and marketing. I guess you'd kind of get free marketing for the game if it launches alongside the TV show. So that's what it is. Now, this is still kind of in the rumored and leak category, though, so we don't know if this is 100% true. So interesting. But not in the rumor and leak category, but more just in the FYI. If you use GOG, so Good Old Games, be very careful of the size of your cloud saves, because we are getting support from GOG saying that they could delete cloud saves that are above the 200 megabyte per game limit. So for example, if you were playing like Witcher 3 on GOG and you have a whole bunch of saves, like I could definitely see someone's save file going beyond 200 megabytes. There are games where that could definitely happen, and so they will be deleted after August 31st, 2024. So just throwing that out there, be careful. Don't get your cloud saves deleted. Check the file sizes. And again, follow the link in the description if you want to look at how you exactly go about doing that on this full page and all that. And I think that's what I've got for you guys today. So I will be continuing to do Computex coverage if there is more interesting things coming out of it. But if not, still be covering all the usual things. And I'm almost done with finals week in my teaching career. So not my final week of my teaching career. I am going to, did decide to keep teaching next year. But finals week for this school year is wrapping up this week. So I should have a lot more time to get some more benchmarking out and things like that this summer, which should be cool. Anyway, I hope all of you have an excellent day.